I was one of the very first people to be asked to join the board. So as Olga, in particular Olga, approached me as would I be interested in serving on this brand new board, I jumped at the opportunity to be service, and also out of friendship with them and the little family. The big issue for us in the early days was we had a dream of being one of a premier psychiatric hospital throughout certainly Eastern Connecticut, ideally maybe even New England, and perhaps even nationally. That was a dream. But I've had a place of love in my heart all these years, and I'm happy to see, just delighted to see, in fact, that the hospital is able to actually achieve many of the things that we were dreaming about, and they were just that, dreaming about back in the 1970s. So 4 decades later now, the hospital is now one of the great facilities, and I'm really proud and honored that I have been able to contribute in a very small way.
I joined the board, say 1985 or 84, 86. But when I began the board work, I was all business. And I thought that's the way it's supposed to be. And more from a personal takeaway, this board helped humanize me to community service. And I believe my service to the board was useful in that I had that legal background. I was a business attorney, and I brought my analytical skills. And in return, I learned how to take a breath and let go of some of that business mindset and look behind the organization, or look behind the books and the org chart and the directors and the staff, and really allow what's going on here be part of my life, so I could appreciate mental health in a different way.
I grew up with this hospital, seeing it develop. I used to drive by, being in high school right up the road, and not realizing what it did. It was a convalescent home as a high school student, just a convalescent home. And then realizing a little bit more about the Littles and how their mission expanded into behavioral health, and learning just from the outside looking in something more of the hospital. But the real learning curve happened when I joined the board. And being around people like Steve and like Joe, and even Kevin and Bob, who again had non-medical backgrounds, seeing their care of the overseeing of the hospital, seeing their concern, made me want to do more. Stories of people I knew personally who had families with problems and difficulties, and they would tell me about their care at Natchaug, and they didn't know I was a member of the board. You know, the board members weren't that well known outside of our work here. And so I would just listen thoughtfully and sensitively and smile inside. I didn't take credit for anything that was done here, that's for sure, but I very, very rarely heard anything negative about this hospital, only good things. And they weren't telling me because I was a board member. They didn't know that.
And then in June of 2002, I assumed chairmanship of the board, which was a distinct honor, because never have I worked with such a group of professional people as I did with the board there. I looked at the list of people that you sent us, about the number of people who were on that board since 1977. And out of the 55 people on that list, including myself, I worked with 21 others on the board of directors. And I've never seen such a diverse group of people come together for such a worthy cause as promoting Natchaug Hospital. And then I had the experience of working with a staff who were committed, who were dedicated, who gave 400% for the patients who were under their care, the children, the adolescents, and the adults. I became mindful of the fact that when you save the life of a child with mental illness, you're promoting a long life. And I think my major emphasis was the childhood mental illness.
Well, it's an illness just like any other illness, but people were in denial. People wouldn't want to talk about it. They were embarrassed to say that someone in their family they thought had mental illness. That's all changing, and it's changing for a very positive way. And I think Natchaug has been in the forefront of, and I'm going to say this because I think it is so important, the vision statement of Natchaug has been and still is helping people find their way. And I think that says it all as far as I'm concerned. It was Dr. Ray Johnson who started the site visits, but I always said that I was his Tonto too. He was the Lone Ranger, I was Tonto, because I went with him, and it was something that I wanted to continue. So the satellites are so important with the inpatient, of course, but as my time on the board, I watched it expand. I mean, we had Enfield and Quinnebog, Thames Valley, Groton, Old Saybrook. Just amazing. The partial hospital programs and the schools, to me, are really the heart of what makes Natchaug such an outreach, because they get into the communities and people know about them. Integrity, caring, excellence, and safety. And you do the right thing, the kind thing, the best thing, and the safe thing. And they incorporate to me all of the things that the staff at Natchaug do. It's the culture of Natchaug. It isn't just words, integrity, caring, excellence, and safety. It's what the culture of Natchaug and all the other members of the Hartford healthcare system are all about. That makes a difference, a big difference.
Well, personally for me, the first year as board chair was very difficult because I had only been on the board for 1 year. So when that first year, I was learning a lot. And the acronyms alone were more than I could take. So the first year was very difficult, but as I met the individuals here, both the staff and the employees and also administration, I found I was very fortunate to have this group of people to work with. But I think overall, what I'm going to take from my experience with the board is the people I met here. A wonderful group of individuals, and I hope to keep in contact with them over the years. And I really enjoyed working with Steve Larson, and we had a very good relationship.
Where we're sitting right now used to be a pasture, and it was owned by my folks. My father was, as you probably know, grew up and went to high school at Wyndham High School, and he lived next door. And they sort of turned this place over into the original building, which a friend of my father's built. He lived up the road about a mile. And so I look at it now, and it's changed a whole lot. You know, I think my parents identified a special need in healthcare in the United States at the time, now that I look back at it. You know, they were both physicians, but they were in very different fields. My father was a family practitioner. He did some industrial medicine during the Second World War, but basically he was a family practitioner here in Wyndham. My mother was a psychiatrist. She was the only psychiatrist between Hartford and Providence. They met in medical school, and they came back here after the Second World War, and I think they knew that there was a real need for what I think they called as extended care, what it really was, people who were getting older, but also people who had sort of chronic diseases and that sort of thing. And then my mother brought in the psychiatric needs aspect of it. They, I think, recognized that there was something needed in the American healthcare scene, and especially in the Eastern Connecticut aspect of it.
Natchaug Hospital has a history of remarkable care. It has given so much care over so many years to so many people. Now, this may be the end of an era for Natchaug, but it is also a new beginning. The future of Natchaug is extremely bright. It has a very powerful mission. The essence of Natchaug Hospital, helping people find their way, will continue to be the focus of its talented, caring, and dedicated staff.